Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Hobby Hunt. Today we'll be going over my workflow and my process for doing clothes in Blender. So here's a character, and we'll be doing her hoodie that she has on in this session today. And unfortunately, the thumbnail image that I had, I can't open right now because I had some corrupted file data, so I lost that. So I'm having to start from scratch a little bit. But yeah, so we'll be making this hoodie, and I hope that this is useful for you guys. I do want to put a little precursor in before we get too far into the video that this method that I use is really only useful for still frame renders. I would not recommend doing this method for full animations. If you guys would like to learn how to do clothes with animation, please leave a comment and let me know if that's something you'd like to learn how to do. But yeah, I just want to give a precursor for now that this is not good for animation. This is good for still frame renders if you're just trying to get a nice looking image. So without further ado, I will continue with the tutorial. And thank you guys so much. Please hit the like and subscribe to the channel for more content in the future. And thank you so much for all your support thus far. Alright, so to get started with a cloth sim, we've got our basic character here. You guys can probably notice I'm not going to tell you which one, but I am reusing some assets from former videos just to make this process a little faster. So this is the elf priestess that we all modeled together, actually. So if you haven't checked those out already, there's a part 1 and part 2 of how to model this exact character and the body and proportions using Make Human and Blender combined. So if you guys haven't checked that out already, go click through that real fast, and you will actually see the same method of cloth sims and generating clothing. In that video, I just didn't go into it, so in this video I'll be doing a more deep dive into how I do my cloth and clothing. So first thing we're going to need to do is add a plane. So I'm going to do Shift A, and I'm going to go to Mesh and Plane. And let's rotate this plane, so I'm going to click R and then X 90. And then I'm going to rotate it one more time, R Z 90, because we want it kind of on this side of the body for now. And then I'm just going to move it up roughly so it's at the furthest point from the body. So this is the thickest part of the body over here. So I'm just going to have it there so I don't overlap with it, like right there. Okay, so just so you guys know what I am envisioning, I think it would be fun to make a super baggy hoodie for this character. So I just want to make like a hoodie that's just, yeah, a super big, large, baggy hoodie. And I think that sounds really fun. So let's go with that. I want it very long and very baggy. So I'm going to have it like down here, actually, a little bit lower. But just know, as you're doing cloth sims, everything falls down quite a bit. And so if you're like right here, it'll probably end up like at this level. So in fact, I might even raise it with that in hindsight. So just be aware of that when doing cloth sims, is that everything falls. So be ready. Okay, so now for this character, we're going to hit 3 on your keyboard, and that will take you to this side angle. And then we're going to go into edit mode, and I'm going to go into line select. And I'm going to select this top line, and then we're just going to raise it a bunch of times, extrude it up. So it's roughly a square. And I'm going to hit E and then Z, so it's a perfect line. And we're just making squares all the way up here. And we're going to just divide these. So I divided these, and I'll do it again here just to make sure you guys for sure know what I'm doing. To add these extra divisions into it, you just do Control R, and then you can see it's moving where I'm going to add that division, and then just click, left click, Then it'll add that in, and then to have it in the exact center, right click. And then you should have a perfect line. So that's all I'm doing right here is I'm just Control R, left click, and then right click. Okay, so now guys, we are going to click on this X-ray mode so we can see the body and where we need to line these up with. So I'm going to take each of these vertices and just as close as I can, line them up. Oh, line them up with the body. So we're going to have a hood in the end, so we're going to have to do a couple edits here that I don't usually do, but yeah, and just so you guys know, I've never actually made a hoodie before, so I hope that this is a good showcase of how this system works, because I've never actually made a hoodie for a character, really. I kind of want this hoodie to be wearable, but if that doesn't seem to be the case, then, you know, maybe I'll have to try for something less ambitious. Okay, and so I don't know if I said what I'm doing here. So I'm lining up these vertices by just clicking on the vertice, click G to grab this vertice, and then I'm clicking Y to rotate on the Y axis. And you can just do that on whatever axis you guys have your character facing on. So let's get this. It doesn't have to be super close, but it doesn't really matter if it's super close. With this method, if it's not perfect, not a big deal, because this just helps us line it up more for some sculpting that we're going to do later in this video. So be ready for that little precursor. And you know, I just realized actually I'm trying to make a baggy hoodie, so I probably don't need to go this close to the skin, but I can adjust that as I need to. Okay, so now I have this almost a perfect shape of my character. So now I am going to select all these by clicking A, and then we're going to extrude all these out to this side of the character. And try and have it so it's roughly in the center. This does matter a little bit, but if it's not perfect, it doesn't matter enough that it'll mess you up too much. Okay. So now, just so when I start, I'm going to subdivide this, but before I do that, I'm going to touch up a little bit to make sure that these are more like in the shape of a square. So I'm going to go into view mode, and now you see I've got all those squared. And by the way, I did that by just clicking Control R, and then you scroll your mouse and it adds more loop cuts into it. So Control R and then scroll your mouse, and I like about that many for over here. Looks like it's more or less squares, and then you can still move around, right click. So it's very similar to our process that I showed you guys earlier. Okay, so now we have this super duper blocky outfit. So let's select the whole thing by clicking A, and let's subdivide. And you guys are gonna hate me. I'm gonna subdivide. Ooh, actually not yet. So now let's keep going and make the rough layout for this outfit. I want to make some sleeves. So let's make some sleeves. So here's what we're going to do. I'm just going to select all these. So how I'm selecting these, by the way, is so let me delete these and I'll show you guys. Oh no! Okay. Delete faces. So how I am selecting all these different faces, and I'll show you right here, is I click, and then I hold Control, and then I click on the next face. And then that will select all the faces up to that face. And it just does the straightest path to that face typically, so you might have to finagle with that. So I'm just going to do it again, and again, and again. And then I know I've got some faces in here, so I'm just going to, and I bet that got them all. Okay, and let's do the bottom. And I'm just doing that exact same thing. I'm selecting, then I'm holding Control and clicking on the next area. And let's get all these selected as best we can. And there we go. That's probably everything. I don't think we missed anything. So, okay. Now I'm going to delete faces. So we should have some openings for normal limbs there. Okay, now here's where we kind of venture into unknown territory. So I'm going to grab, so how I just selected all those is I did, if you guys don't know, it's Shift and then Alt, or sorry, yeah, Shift Alt. So hold both those and then select where you want to select all those edges from. Okay, and then I'm going to extrude this by clicking E and then S and then X. And that will help us to extrude it out in a more even way. And we want it baggy, so I'm going to go way over the hands like that. And let's add some loop cuts just so we don't mess up our squares when we subdivide. Okay, so everything's looking pretty good there. And now I'm afraid we need a hood. So let's add a hood in. And yes, it looks terrible, but it won't by the time we're done, I promise. So I'm going to try and just select here. And I'm going to try something kind of weird. So let's see. So one thing, I think I'm going to leave this area kind of open, you'll see. So I'm going to select all these faces using the same methods I showed before, extrude, and we're just going to straight up, and that's going to be our hood. Okay, and then let's fill that in, and you can fill that in by just clicking F, and that should fill you in really nicely over there. And then let's this might be a little tedious, but I just don't want our thing to be all messed up. So we are going to add a couple of loop cuts into this real fast. Okay, guys, I taught you guys wrong. So I'm re-recording for just a smidge here to show you guys how to do it. So right here, you select both the vertices and then hit J, and that should add a loop cut to between whatever you're doing and create some vertices. So I'm hitting J every time. And it's really not that bad depending on how big of a thing you have. But I can already see it's working because you can see these vertices that it's adding in right there. Okay, now we should be more normal. Okay, guys, so the next step, let's save. So the next thing we're going to do is go into sculpting. And we're going to grab our handy dandy smooth brush. And we are going to smooth this whole thing. But before I do anything, I just realized, let's go back to layout mode, select your object that we've just created, and go into set origin and origin to geometry. If you don't do this, your sculpt mode won't work effectively. Because in sculpting, we've got these, and we need to edit both sides at the same time, and it won't know how to do that if we don't reset the origin. So I've reset the origin, and you need to click Z. So we're editing it on the Z axis, and it's going to mirror the Z axis right now. And then we're just going to shape this how we want to shape it using sculpt mode. This will be much easier than using a more practical way of doing it. So you see we've got our hoodie, and I want a nice let's make the corners here a little bit more. There we go. A little bit more natural. And I'm gonna tug out some of these areas that I think would look more like a hoodie should look. And everything's gonna already want to fall on the character once we turn this into a cloth. So don't stress too much about having it super close. We can kind of mess with stuff later. So one thing I thought would be kind of neat is if this like had holes for these elven ears, but I wasn't sure. Let's actually just for now make a really large hoodie. And then if we feel like holes would look better. Well, yeah, let's make some holes. So I'm going to bring that in, bring that out. And yeah, you guys can kind of see this is looking a little bit more like a hoodie as we're going. It's a very easy method of making cloth, especially for simulations. Alrighty. We're going to want to get the ear probably more inside of just one of these vertices to make it a little easier. But, you know, let's just drag that down a bit and drag that down a bit, and that might be okay for now. We're so close. Let's just get it right there. Okay. Kind of like what we got so far. Okay. So now you guys can hopefully kind of see what we're doing. Let's smooth out a couple more areas. And now I'm going to puff out a couple of them. So this, there is a way, a fancy method to know to reassign your faces so it makes more sense. I'm not going to do it just because I feel like it doesn't confuse me too much not to. So I'm going to hold control, and this will reverse whatever you're doing. So like right now, my puff is pushing it inward, which won't typically happen with normal mesh. So instead, I'm going to hold control, and it'll fluff it outward. And I kind of like the rough look. I think we need to go in a little bit here on the sides. And does it sound kind of cute? I know, cute, but that's how I think when I'm doing clothes. Does it sound kind of cute to do like a little thumb hole maybe even? We're doing a lot of holes already. Maybe that's too adventurous for now. So let's just get the thumb so it's just there. Okay, and let's move this in just a smidge. That was a little too much, I think. I just want it in just a bit. And it's a little blocky, but I don't care too much because we're just going to end up kind of editing this anyway. Okay, I'm going to turn this into cloth and see how it looks for now. So we got our thing. Let's shade smooth. And one thing you'll want to do really fast, and we're going to have to mess with these, I already know a little bit, but hopefully not too much, is, so I'm actually going to just grab this and bring it up just a hair like that, so that ear's covered. Okay. So we're going to delete these faces that the ears are in. And let's turn this into a cloth to kind of give you guys the idea. And then I'm going to fine tune it. So this may end up being a 2-part tutorial just because I don't want it to be too long for you guys. So if this gave you the basics of what you need so far and you just want to go off on your own, that's fine. But yeah, we might do a 2-parter. So then let's go over to modifier and let's add a cloth modifier and go down into your physics tab. So this is now cloth. So like for instance, if I click play, you'll see it's actually falling. That's because it has physics and it's actually cloth right now. One thing that we need to do, you'll see it's falling through our character. We need to give our character a collision. And in this collision, the top friction you can do is 80, and that's what we want. So we're going to do 80 for our friction, and we're going to do 0.001 for our thickness outer layer. And that will just make it so the cloth goes almost as close as possible to your character's skin. So then we're going to select our cloth, and we're going to change the quality steps to 35. And we're going to change, let's just see what 0.3 looks like for now. So this vertex mass essentially just makes it so the lower the value, the more thin of a fabric it'll act like. So I kind of wanted it to be a thicker hoodie probably. So we're going to stick with 3 and just see how that turns out. We're not going to mess with any of these settings yet. Let's see how the cloth turns out. We're going to go to collisions and quality steps. I'm going to say 12. And object distance. So that's how close it will get to your collision object. I'm going to say 0.001. We just want them both as close as possible. Self collisions 0.001 because I just like my cloth to look as close as possible and act like normal cloth, like it's hitting itself. Okay, and we should be good for just a very basic cloth sim now. So you guys can see the hoodie's falling and it's hitting our character. And yeah, that kind of gives you guys the idea. I can already see a couple changes I'm going to make in sculpt mode. And at this point, it's pretty much just you tweaking it to see what you think looks good. So I'm going to pause that. And so yeah, there's our hoodie. Kind of a rough look. I'm going to mess with up here a bit because I want it to look a little bit better against those ears. But yeah, I hope that guy gives you guys kind of the idea of what's possible. So one thing I'm going to do that you guys are probably going to think is crazy is I'm going to delete both these faces and I'm going to select only faces. So then we have this line here still. And then I'm going to select these edges and I'm going to S and then Y. And let's turn off that, so it's just selecting those edges. And we're just going to bring them really close together. It might look a little janky. Let's actually fix a little bit of the jank just to get it so it's a little bit better looking. Okay, something kind of like that. And now I'm going to show you guys a neato trick. So we've got these huge holes in the ears. So now what we're going to do is I'm going to select. I'm going to go over to the physics tab and I'm going to open shape and I'm going to select sewing. So sewing and dynamic mesh. And then I'm going to hit play. So guys, these areas right over here that have these lines are actually like pulling in now. So as you can see, it's more of a like actual sewed on kind of look than it was before. So I think we're doing fine. I'm going to add, so now go into your modifiers, add a subdivision, and this will give you a better idea of what your cloth is looking like. And I'm seeing a lot of clipping, so I'm going to go over to, I'm going to click in, open view, and clip start. I'm just going to up that just by that many. So now this clipping is actually there. So let's go and let's add another modifier. We're going to say solidify, and we're just going to up the thickness because it's a big hoodie. Okay, so that looks okay so far. And let's mess with the actual hood because I want to mess with that just a hair. So I'm going to go in sculpting, and I think that we should bring this forward just a bit and then down for a more kind of rounded. I just want it just to cup in the face. Let's bring these out a bit and let's bring this down. Okay. And let's see how what that did for us. So I'm going to save, and we're going to play the sim again. And at this point, it's just really experimenting, seeing what looks good. That hood looks quite a bit better already. I'm I might end up fixing like some of this jank, but for now it doesn't bother me too bad since I can't see it from the front, so I'll probably go through and fix that later. But yeah, again, this is the first time I've ever made a hoodie, and I'm fairly happy with the results so far. Just a really easy method of doing it. So now we're going to use our sewing to make it look more like a hoodie should look. So we're going to go to our modifiers and make sure on your solidifier modifier in edit mode you have the view turned off. And so we're going to still see all these clippings, and that's okay. So now we're in edit mode, and I want these sleeves to actually look like sleeves. So to do that, we're going to select right here on the sleeves, and I'm going to delete only faces. And then next, I kind of want some nice little like cuffs. So I'm going to delete only faces. Down here, I think it would be nice to have more of a hoodie thing, so delete only faces. So let's see how that looks. So I'm going to play the sim, and there we go. So it's going to look a little janky for just a second because it pulled it all in toward itself right there. But yeah, as you kind of let it rest, there you go. She's just wearing a really big, thick hoodie, as you can see, and yeah, it looks pretty good. I'm pretty happy with it. I might up my subdivisions. It's up at 1. Yes, there we go. Okay. And one thing I think we're going to end up wanting for this character is maybe like around this hoodie, like on the edge here. Let's see if I can select that. Oh yeah, I don't know how it's going to play. I don't know if it'll play very nice with this, but I'm going to do the same thing. So we have a crease here, delete only faces. I'm a little worried it won't play very nice though with that because of the odd geometry of it. So yeah, I can see a couple of issues. So here's what we're going to do. Our main issues are right there, so I'm going to simply I'm going to add in some loops. I honestly just need to grab we're going to add in some loops right here. And add in a loop right here. Add in a loop right here. And add in a loop right here. So this is giving it more geometry. It might make your cloth sim run a little slower. Then we're going to click both those, hit F. Click on all the vertices that you want sewn together. And hit F. So I think I missed one right here. There we go. Hit F. And that should fix some of that sewing issues I could see we were having. Yeah. Okay, so now let's let it settle. And yeah, guys, I hope you can kind of see we've got a pretty nice looking hoodie here. And I don't know how long. Let's see. Yeah, and this took me 30 minutes to do this. Pretty easy. But yeah, I hope it kind of gave you guys the vision of what's possible. Here is the hoodie in my other viewport. And I might throw on a couple things just so you guys can really see. But yeah, it's a very simple hoodie. Let's actually, I'm going to go up here and I'm going to try and fix these. Add some loops. And what we're going to do for these loops is we're just going to add some right here. Just the more geometry, the better for things like this. Your computer will thank you, and so will your cloth sim. Okay. Yeah, that looks a bit better. So one thing I also might do is I might bring those up a bit. So I'm going to go to sculpt mode, and I'm gonna grab this, and I'm gonna bring it up really high. I'm gonna grab this, I'm gonna bring it up or down, so it's just barely around that ear. And let's see if that helps our sim a little bit. So yeah, I don't think that looks terrible. I might. Now I'm going to actually go into sculpt, and I'm going to just shade smooth a bit in some of these areas because it looks a little janky. And let's go to layout. Let's see how we turned out there. So I think one of our problems we're having now is that we've added too many lines. So let's take some of these out. Let's just delete edges. And same with this side. Let's delete edges. And let's see if that helps. Let's delete all the edges. I don't know if that's crazy or not. We'll find out together. So you see I'm having some overlap, but the collisions should fix itself as the cloth sim's going. Yeah, those look pretty good now. Ears just poking out. I think that's kind of neat looking. I might cheat and add just like a couple strands of hair. You won't know she's bald in the back. So let's do that, but let's bake this first. So I'm gonna bake this for who knows. Okay, and I want to give you guys just a real quick peek at like what we can do. So I'm gonna download, or I'm gonna get a T-pose I've just got sitting in here for the skeleton, and I'm actually gonna zero that out, and let's grab this guy. Let's just grab the whole thing. Let's move it. And I wish I could spend more time doing this and show you guys my workflow on this, but it just would take a long time, so I don't think I should probably. I'm going to select our character, and we are going to bring the armature above collision. That is important. Bring your armature above the collision. And then let's bake this in and see what it looks like. So yeah, I'm just going to go over to cache. We don't need 200 frames. That seems a little excessive. Let's do 100. I even usually just do 50, so let's actually just do 50. And let's just bake it in. Move that. Alright guys, so there you have it. This is it after it's baked, and I think it's a pretty nice looking baggy hoodie for this character. So yeah, if you guys have any other requests or things you'd like to learn how to do in Blender, or if you have any other cloth sim questions, you let me know and I'm glad to help however I can. So all that's left to do now is maybe add a couple details to the character and yeah, send it off. It looks pretty good. Okay, thank you guys for watching again. Leave a like and subscribe. If you'd like videos on knowing how to model this character, you can check out the Ultimate Make Human / Blender tutorial part 1 and 2. And if you haven't already seen the Blender new hair system, I have a tutorial step by step in real time showing how to do hair for a character. So you can check out that tutorial as well. And yeah, thank you guys for watching. Hopefully this gave you guys some help on using the cloth sims.